My ex claims she felt pressured into sex, even after initiating it and saying she wanted to. I thought we were on the same page, but now she's saying I felt pressured without explaining how. How can our perspectives possibly coexist after everything? Before we broke up a few weeks ago, we dated for a year, taking things relatively slow. Throughout the relationship, we kissed intimately and engaged in other forms of sexual activity, but never progressed beyond oral sex until a few weeks prior to the breakup. To present her perspective as accurately as possible, here is some relevant context. We saw each other infrequently, which led to us frequently engaging in suggestive conversation online, with both of us sometimes expressing things like, "I am so wet" or "I am so hard," and similar remarks. We would also express these feelings while being intimate in person. About a few weeks before we had sexual intercourse for the first time, after several months of this kind of suggestive conversation, she communicated that when I made comments like that in person, she felt as if I was expecting something from her, which made her feel pressured. I had no idea it registered that way since we both spoke like that quite often. After she explained, I recognized that certain types of suggestive language conveyed an entirely different meaning than I intended, depending on the timing, such as after we had been intimate. I never intended to imply anything like that, so after she informed me about her feelings, I sincerely apologized and ceased making such comments. A few months before we had sexual intercourse, my former partner informed me that she was now comfortable and ready to proceed, but was extremely anxious about the possibility of pregnancy. Following that conversation, remarks about actually having sex became part of our suggestive conversations. Some examples of things we both said included, "One time would not hurt," or "I wish we had condoms," and similar expressions. On the day we had sexual intercourse, we were making out at my place and we were again engaging in suggestive talk. I mentioned things like, "One time would not hurt," and so on expressions we typically exchanged. For months, we had discussed the possibility of having sex and I was trying to gauge her comfort level. She flirted back in a manner that indicated she was interested but was too concerned about the risk of pregnancy. To ensure this did not turn into something she was uncomfortable with, I asked her, "Do you want to have sex or are you afraid of getting pregnant?" She provided an uncertain answer that leaned towards her fear of pregnancy. After that, I completely ceased any suggestive comments about having sex to avoid making her feel uncomfortable and inadvertently pressuring her. I believe this time my comments were different since I paused to check in before my suggestive remarks could pressure her into anything she did not want to do. We went out and returned to my place after several hours, where we were engaged in making out and dry humping, something we had felt comfortable with for some time. She pulled back and said, "One time would not hurt," indicating she wanted to have sex. Given her prior uncertainty, I asked her if she was sure multiple times. She affirmed her desire each time. We had sex and afterward she left. I inquired if she regretted it, to which she replied that she did not and that she wanted to do it again. I was harboring regret for unrelated reasons, a completely different story, and she reassured me that it was fine and that I should not feel regret. After that, we made plans to have sex multiple times, but each time those plans fell through for various reasons, such as unexpected visitors or incorrect condom sizes, etc. One might argue that she was simply agreeing without genuine intention, but every single time she appeared to be extremely enthusiastic about it. What I am trying to convey is that all indications suggested she was okay with it. She initiated it, affirmed her desire when I asked if she was sure several times, did not change her mind after I checked in later, and we both made plans to have sex multiple times afterward, with her being extremely enthusiastic throughout. After we broke up, my former partner told me she recognized there were some issues in our relationship that she had not resolved, stating that she felt pressured within the relationship quite often. I apologized sincerely and asked her to elaborate on it. She indicated that throughout the relationship, I would sometimes say things that made her feel pressured to do things, the suggestive talk, explaining that she never truly did not want to engage in certain acts but simply did not feel like it at times. This was something she had already shared earlier in our relationship, so I was not surprised. Here is the crucial point. She stated that she felt pressured into having sex with me. I could not comprehend how that was possible considering everything I had listed above. She claimed that comments I made like, "One time would not hurt," made her feel pressured. I do not understand. I checked in with her and stopped before my comments could exert pressure on her. She also expressed that if she said no, I would become upset, but she initiated it. I want to clarify that I have never been upset when she did not want to engage in something with me. I cannot emphasize this enough. I have reassured her several times throughout our relationship. Whenever she would say she did not want to do something, I always responded with something like, "That is okay," in an upbeat tone, and we would move on to something else. I attributed this to an issue we had in the past, where she would believe I was upset with her over very minor matters, such as not linking arms while we walked. But in reality, I did not think about it at all. I genuinely have no idea what I could have done that might have seemed like I was upset, and she could not offer any specifics beyond saying that I seemed angry. Overall, I did not understand what I had done that made her feel pressured into sex. After she informed me that something I was doing seemed pressuring before we had sex, I completely ceased those actions. Then, when we were engaging in suggestive conversation, I ensured that my comments about sex would not pressure her into anything she did not want to do. Later, when she initiated it, I checked in with her multiple times. After she left, I checked in again. I honestly feel that I did everything within my power. I deeply regret having said anything that exerted pressure on her in the past, but I truly had no idea that I came across that way and stopped as soon as she informed me. It feels as though she is retroactively changing the narrative now that we have broken up. I even asked her if she would have regretted having sexual intercourse with me had we still been together, and she answered, no, but I would not do it again, which is a fair response. A few weeks after she communicated all of this, I reached out to her with the intention of reconciling our perspectives. I did not deny her feelings at all. I merely wished to understand her perspective. I sent her a message conveying that I felt I had done everything I could to make her feel comfortable, primarily explaining my viewpoint and why I could not grasp hers. She replied with statements such as, "You did not pressure me. Some things you said made me feel pressured. What does this mean?" I do not remember much. All I recall is that I felt pressured and still said yes. I consented. It is over now. I do not know how I felt pressured. I just did. I do not know what you want me to say. I felt pressured. I am sorry when I inquired about how she felt pressured if she initiated. I do not remember. I do not know. Throughout our conversation, she kept stating, I am sorry I felt that way, despite my reassurances that she had nothing to apologize for and that I simply wished to understand her. Overall, it was not a particularly productive conversation. She has always had difficulties with communication and memory, so I am unsure what I was expecting. I have consulted a few others and received insights suggesting that I did not pressure her, but at the same time, she felt pressured. I just do not understand how those two perspectives can coexist, as she specifically stated that what I said made her feel pressured. I feel like either I did pressure her and do not comprehend how, or she is retroactively altering the narrative following our breakup. Now I turn to you all. How can her perspective and mine both exist simultaneously? Summary: during our relationship, I unintentionally pressured my former partner when making certain types of suggestive remarks. She was still comfortable with the acts we engaged in, but there were instances when she did not particularly feel like it. After she expressed her feelings to me, I completely ceased those comments. Before we had sexual intercourse for the first time, we engaged in suggestive conversation about having sex. I ensured to check in with her to confirm her interest before my suggestive remarks could exert pressure on her as in the past. She provided an ambiguous answer but later initiated sex hours later. She insisted that she did not regret it, wanted to do it again, and made plans for additional encounters. Following the breakup, she stated that she felt pressured into the encounter, and I am struggling to find a way for her viewpoint and mine to coexist. Story 2. My friends have ignored me for months, labeling me a coward for refusing punishments that could ruin my future. After discovering a group chat named after me, I realized they've been planning without me. Now I'm left wondering how to survive till graduation. My title is a bit simplified. However, I am going to inform you that this is a long read as there is a lot of detail. For context, I am a senior in high school, and my friends have completely ignored or severed ties with me for the past 6 months or so. I do not really care about them specifically, as I only have about 2 months left with them graduation. However, I want to avoid making the same mistakes in the future. I have been genuine friends with these individuals for approximately 3 years. I invited a couple of them into the group and have taken some of them on trips. However, I tend to avoid conflict or arguments by laughing them off, which may not be the best approach. To start, around the end of last year, my friends and I had a small party or gathering. Towards the end, we went for a walk around the neighborhood. I was not in the best state of mind, if you understand what I mean, and neither were the others. One of these individuals, who I had known my entire life and was practically best friends with, began speaking about me and my family. He made some really hurtful comments and then called me a coward when I refused to fight him. I told him I did not want to because he was my friend. He came and pushed me, I pushed him back, he punched me, and then I punched him back. I immediately called a rideshare service and left. A few weeks later, I unfortunately lost a game. I will not specify what, because if these individuals see this, it will be evident that it is me, and had to complete a punishment that the winners were allowed to decide. They assigned me something that would reflect very poorly on me and potentially jeopardize my chances of attending college. I refused and requested an easier punishment, preferably one that would not affect my future. They told me to stop being a coward and to take the punishment. They also decided that I would not be allowed to attend any gatherings or parties until I completed my punishment. I thought they were joking. However, I was not invited anywhere for 3 months. If I reached out online, I would be left on read, ignored, or responded to with hostility and told that I had to complete my impossible punishment. They would not even speak to me at school without bringing this up, and I began to notice that they would not talk to me in person either. I was genuinely upset about this, especially because while I have other friends, no one really does anything outside of school. This group is all I have, so I felt somewhat trapped. At one point, I couldn't sleep because I was anxious about this situation, whether it would resolve itself, and more importantly, being completely ignored by individuals I had considered my best friends just a couple of months prior. On several occasions, I would learn about a gathering or party, ask to attend, and be told that I could not. Two of the girls in this group felt bad and tried to get me invited, but these guys would not budge, even saying things like, "We figured you would not want him here." Eventually, I received an invitation to a party hosted by one of these girls, and after that, things seemed to calm down. I started being invited to events, even if I learned about the plans by listening to these guys talk or by reaching out after the gathering had already begun. However, at one of these parties, my friend opened his phone and I noticed a group chat notification from a group chat named after me. Everyone was in it, the entire group, both guys and girls. I was extremely disheartened. I did not let on that I was aware, but over the following week or so, I noticed that people were messaging in it. We had previously had a group chat with the same individuals, but it had been inactive since I stopped receiving invitations to events. Over the past couple of weeks since discovering this, I have picked up on certain things. They all plan events in this group chat, which is why I never hear about anything. More frustratingly, the background photo of this group chat is a picture of my face taken at an awkward moment when I was blinking and turning my head. In short, it is not flattering. Then yesterday, when we all gathered, I saw that the photo had been changed to one of me passed out on a couch. Returning to the story, things were as smooth as they could be until a couple of weeks ago. I went to the usual hangout spot, a good friend's house, who invited me over as he is part of this group and probably the only one who has not treated me poorly. We were just hanging out when around 12 o'clock we were all pretty inebriated and sitting on the couch when one of these guys stood up in front of us and started yelling at me. The guy who had punched me earlier also joined in. He said things like, "Why do you hang out with us? We all hate you. And why do you keep coming back when you just get bullied?" He then continued to talk about how I had been excluded, but I do not remember the rest. He ended up slapping me and said some other hurtful things. I took a rideshare home, wrote down what I remembered from that night so I would not forget and went to bed, but not before messaging him to ask why he was being rude to me that night. I wanted to give him an opportunity to apologize, but I woke up to a message stating, "I do not remember what happened, but what I said was the truth." This guy was my best friend for about 3 years. We got along well and had never really had any issues before this. One of the other guys filmed the entire incident and sent it to the group chat. One of the girls responded with laughter, asking what I had done to provoke him, as if I had instigated the entire situation and it was a regular occurrence. I know this because the guy next to me was on his phone and I saw the group chat. Regarding what he said, I do not really get bullied by these individuals. Sure, I have been excluded before, but now I mostly attend everything even if I do not get involved in planning. In person, we interact fine. It feels a bit strange over the past few months, at least from my perspective, but I just try to ignore it. There have been times when I show up and one of the girls will say something like, "Oh, my name, you came too," or "Oh, I did not know you were coming." We never argue or have any issues unless someone has too much to drink. They always seem happy to see me when I arrive at gatherings. At school, we say hi in the halls. I stopped sitting with them at lunch back in January. With the school year coming to an end and my friendship with all of them also coming to an end, I decided to inquire about the group chat and see what it was about. I asked a good friend of mine, whom I have known my entire life and who has also not participated in any of this but has been passively involved, about the group chat. I trust this individual, and he is one of the two people in this entire group that I will keep in touch with after high school. He claimed he had no knowledge of the group chat and that it did not exist. How could it, since they would not do that to me, and that I was overthinking it. I asked another guy and he also said he did not know about it, insisting it did not exist and there was no reason for it to. Two other individuals echoed this sentiment. I know these guys are all involved in this. I just want to know why I am not in it and what occurs in it. That last part happened last night. I am seeking advice on how to endure this situation. I have not done anything to anyone in this group. I drive them around when they cannot drive. I converse with them at school. I used to check in on them. Currently, I despise this situation. It feels strange knowing they have a group chat without me, especially with my name in the title. Do they feel bad? They must realize by now that I am aware of this. I feel like these people just do not take me seriously, which makes me very bitter. I have about 2 months left with these individuals. I would like advice on how to endure these final months. It feels uncomfortable being around people who engage in activities without me. I have to essentially pretend to be friends with them and I cannot bear it. However, outside of this group, nothing else happens. No one does anything. I am somewhat of an extrovert, so I need to be around people. It is fine in person, as I have mentioned, but I just feel odd. If I attempt to address the situation by individually asking how to fix my apparent problems with the group or what I did to cause it, they just shut down or say they are not sure what the problem is or do not notice any issues. Since someone is going to suggest I stop hanging out with these individuals, I genuinely cannot. Some of my best friends are in this group, so I cannot leave. I have also invested 4 years into these guys, and no one outside of this group does anything, so I would just be stuck at home. Recently, this has greatly affected my self-esteem. I am beginning to doubt myself, overanalyzing anything I do in social situations to see if I am behaving oddly and worrying about my future in college, concerned that this whole scenario will repeat. I really need some advice on how to survive these next few months. How do I get along with this group? How do I ignore the fact that they clearly have issues with me? I never did anything to these individuals, and when I ask what happened, they brush it off as if they do not have an answer either. I do not want this to happen again in college, but that is all I can think about now. I apologize for ranting. I just genuinely need assistance here. Thank you if you read all of this. In summary, friends have been treating me poorly for the past 5 months, and I am uncertain how to proceed and mend relationships with them. Story 3. My boyfriend, 20M, seems more interested in my new friend Angela than me, 19F. I've never felt so seen, he said about her, leaving me feeling invisible. After I caught him snapping her, I wondered, am I being irrational or is this emotional cheating? My boyfriend, 20 years old male, and I, 19 years old female, have been dating for a little over 2 years. We have encountered some issues in our relationship, but I have never experienced actual jealousy until now. Recently, I made a new female friend named Angela. It is important to note that she is a lesbian and has had a girlfriend for about 1 month. After we became quite close, I decided to introduce her to my boyfriend. Immediately, they connected and honestly seemed to enjoy each other's company even more than she and I do. They share a similar sense of humor, enjoy the same activities, and jokingly tease one another constantly. Initially, I brushed this off and was just pleased that they were getting along, but now I have reached my limit. It started as small red flags, such as my boyfriend mentioning how intense and bossy she is, but it progressed into something resembling emotional cheating. For instance, one night we were all having dinner together and he brought up his mental health issues. She immediately focused on him, making unbroken eye contact and bombarding him with deep questions. She insisted that she completely understood him and everything he was expressing. I thought it was kind and did not mind too much, but afterwards, he kept mentioning that he had never felt so seen and validated by anyone. This was painful for me because I am his actual girlfriend and have been through significant challenges with him. There have been a few other instances similar to this where they have engaged in deep emotional conversations without bothering to include me. The next incident occurred at a party. My boyfriend arrived about 30 minutes before it ended to pick me up and take me home. He ended up staying for a while and we were sitting on the couch together. Angela approached and plopped herself down next to him and they began chatting. I was not fully aware of what was happening at the time because I was quite dazed, but throughout the interaction she was leaning on him and grabbing his bicep. I realized she was intoxicated, but I believe that is quite disrespectful on her part. He mentioned it the next day, saying it was just a strange feeling being between two girls leaning on him. I asked, "So you enjoyed it?" He sort of laughed it off, but it was clear that he indeed appreciated the attention from females. At another party last weekend, my boyfriend and I arrived about 2 hours late. We walked in and after a few minutes of chatting with Angela, she abandoned me to talk to my boyfriend. I felt somewhat upset, but I chose to ignore it and went to speak with one of my other female friends. From across the room, I saw them laughing, and he looked much happier than he does around me. I even noticed her playfully pushing him a few times and getting very close to his face. Later that evening, my boyfriend and I were in a corner of the room while Angela was in the bathroom being sick. He expressed concern for her, and when she came back and sat on the couch, he went to sit next to her without even acknowledging me. In that moment, I felt like crying. I found myself staring at them from across the room, overwhelmed with jealousy and anger. Then he started to feel unwell and went to the bathroom, so I accompanied him. While I was comforting him and giving him water, Angela barged into the bathroom, approached him directly and began touching his back, insisting he should throw up to feel better. Her brother intervened and removed her from the bathroom, but I had reached my breaking point and told my boyfriend we needed to leave immediately. Without saying goodbye to her, we left. The next day, my boyfriend said, "I don't know why, but after we left, I sent Angela this Snapchat. It was a picture of him saved in the chat accompanied by a text message that said something like, 'I don't know what happened, but I really hope you're okay and don't feel too sick.' This was honestly the final straw for me because I do not understand why my boyfriend is so concerned about another woman's well-being. He seems to truly enjoy her company and cares a lot about her. I hope I do not sound crazy or possessive, but it genuinely hurts to see my boyfriend so captivated and concerned about someone who is supposed to be my friend. They continue to send snaps and TikToks back and forth frequently, and I really do not know how to address this or bring it up to him. I am uncertain if it is justified for me to feel as upset as I do. Any advice would be appreciated.